My husband kept inviting people over without telling me, so I just started leaving. It started small. I'd come home from work to find Brendan's college roommate sprawled on our couch, beer in hand. "Oh, didn't he mention? I'm crashing here this weekend." Brendan would shrug from the kitchen, already halfway through cooking dinner for 3. Then it was his mom, arriving with 6 suitcases for her quick visit. Then his cousin and the cousin's pregnant girlfriend who were just passing through, but somehow needed our guest room for 3 weeks. Each time, I'd get a text 5 minutes before they arrived. Sometimes not even that. "Babe, my boss is coming for dinner tonight. Can you whip something up? Trevor needs a place to crash. He's going through a divorce. The guys are doing fantasy draft here Sunday. Order some pizzas?" I tried talking to him about it. "Brendan, this is my home too. I need advance notice." He'd look at me like I was being unreasonable. "It's called being hospitable. Family helps family. But I'm not even friends with these people." "Well, maybe if you stuck around instead of disappearing every time someone visits, you would be." So I stopped explaining. When his parents announced they were staying from Thanksgiving through New Year's, I booked a hotel room. When his fraternity brothers showed up for their reunion weekend, I went to my sister's house. When he invited his entire office for a surprise barbecue on my birthday, I drove to the coast and turned off my phone. The comments started getting nasty. His mom called me a bad wife. His friends joked about me being a ghost. Someone posted a photo from one of Brendan's parties with the caption, "Great host, shame about his antisocial wife." Our house became a revolving door of strangers eating our food, using our bathroom, sleeping in the guest room I'd never gotten to decorate because someone was always in it. Then last month, I came home at 2 a.m. from another hotel stay. The house was finally quiet. I walked into our bedroom and found someone in our bed. Not Brendan, a woman I'd never seen before. I stood there frozen, my heart hammering. She woke up startled and screamed. Brendan came running from the bathroom in his boxers. "Whoa, everyone calm down." The woman clutched our sheets to her chest. "Brendan, you said your wife wouldn't be home. I thought you were at your mom's this week," he said to me, almost accusatory. "Why is there a woman in our bed?" He ran his hand through his hair. "Okay, so Melissa's going through a rough time. Her apartment flooded. She needed somewhere to stay. In our bed? The guest room has my cousin in it. What was I supposed to do?" I looked at Melissa. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Brendan. He was already getting defensive, jaw set, arms crossed. Something in me just broke. I walked to the closet, pulled out my already packed suitcase from my last escape, and added my laptop and chargers. "Where are you going?" Brendan demanded. "Away. You can't just leave." I stopped at the door. "Watch me." I drove straight to a lawyer's office Monday morning, filed for divorce, changed the locks while Brendan was at work, had the sheriff serve him papers at his job. That evening, I came home to 47 missed calls. The best text was from his mother. "How could you abandon your husband when he needs you most?" I blocked them all. 3 days later, Brendan showed up banging on the door. "Let me in. This is my house too." I opened the door just wide enough to speak through the chain lock. "Actually, it's my house, my name on the deed. Inheritance from my grandmother, remember? You signed a prenup." His face went white. "But you're welcome to contest it in court." "Oh wait, you can't afford a lawyer. The joint account? Also in my name. I emptied it yesterday." "You can't do this." I started closing the door, then paused. "By the way, Melissa called me this morning. She's still in the guest room. Says she's 12 weeks pregnant and the dates don't add up to her ex-boyfriend." I watched the color drain from his face as the math hit him. "She's waiting inside to talk to you about it. Hope your mom has room for all 3 of you." I slammed the door before he could respond. The banging continued for another 10 minutes. Then his phone calls. Then texts that alternated between begging and threats. I sat on my grandmother's antique couch, the one Brendan had always hated because it was too delicate for entertaining, and listened to him lose his mind on my front porch. Finally, silence. I peeked through the window. He was gone. His truck wasn't in the driveway. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Is this Mrs. Patterson?" A woman's voice, professional but warm. "It's Ms. Chen now. I'm going back to my maiden name. Ms. Chen, this is Detective Lisa Ramirez with the county police. I'm calling about a domestic disturbance report filed by a Melissa Thornton. She says she's been staying at your residence." My stomach dropped. "What kind of disturbance?" "She claims your husband assaulted her approximately 30 minutes ago. She's at the hospital now getting examined. We need your statement." I closed my eye. Of course Brendan would do something like this. "I'll be right there." The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Detective Ramirez was in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She led me to a small consultation room. "Walk me through what's been happening," she said, pen poised over her notepad. I told her everything. The constant guests, the invasion of my privacy, finding Melissa in my bed. The detective's expression grew darker with each detail. "And you're saying he never asked your permission for any of these people?" "Not once." "Did you give Melissa permission to stay in your home?" "I didn't even know she existed until I found her in my bed 3 nights ago." Detective Ramirez made several notes. "Melissa says Brendan told her the house was empty because you'd moved out. She was under the impression the marriage was over and she was his new girlfriend." My laugh came out bitter. "The marriage is definitely over now." She also says when she told him about the pregnancy tonight, he grabbed her by the throat and threw her against the wall. Then he took her phone and locked her in the guest room. She had to climb out the window. Ice flooded my veins. "Is she okay?" "Bruised larynx. Possible fractured wrist from the fall. She's 5'2" and weighs maybe 110 pounds. Your husband is what, 6 foot? 200 pounds? 6'1", 215. We've issued a warrant for his arrest. Assault and false imprisonment. Given your statement about the pattern of behavior, we're also looking at stalking and harassment charges. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight?" "It's my house." "I understand that. But until we have him in custody, I'd recommend staying elsewhere." I thought about my grandmother's house, the one place that had ever felt truly mine. Then I thought about Brendan's face when I told him about the pregnancy, the rage that had flashed across it. I'll go to my sister's. I was packing a bag when my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. You destroyed my life. You'll regret this. I showed it to Detective Ramirez on my way out. She photographed it for evidence. My sister Rachel opened her door before I could knock. She'd been my safe haven so many times over the past 2 years that she'd given me my own key months ago. I made up the guest room, she said, pulling me inside. Owen's on a business trip, so it's just us. Rachel was 3 years older and had the kind of marriage I'd once thought I had. Owen actually asked before inviting people over. Imagine that. Want to talk about it? She asked, handing me a glass of wine. Brendan might have tried to kill his pregnant girlfriend tonight. Rachel choked on her wine. I'm sorry, his what? I filled her in. She listened with increasing horror. I always hated him, she said finally, but I thought I was being overprotective. You were right. How are you doing, really? I considered the question. I feel lighter than I have in years. Is that wrong? It's perfect. At 3 a.m., my phone rang. Detective Ramirez. We have him in custody. Resisted arrest, so we added that to the charges. He's demanding to speak with you. Absolutely not. That's what I figured. But legally, I had to ask. His bail hearing is Monday morning. Given the violence and the threats, we'll be requesting he be held without bail. Thank you. One more thing. We executed a search warrant on your house. Found some interesting items in his office. Mind if I ask you a few questions? My stomach nodded. What kind of items? Laptops, external hard drives, a lot of paperwork. Some of it has your name on it. When can you come down to the station? I arrived at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Detective Ramirez led me to the same consultation room and spread documents across the table. Do you recognize these? Bank statements, credit card bills, loan applications, all in my name, all forged signatures. I never signed any of these. That's what we figured. Your husband's been taking out credit cards and personal loans using your information. Current total debt under your name is $47,000. The room tilted. What? It gets worse. The paperwork we found suggests he was planning to take out a home equity loan against your house for $150,000. But the house is in my name only. He forged a deed adding himself as co-owner. It's not registered yet, but he was in the process. If you hadn't kicked him out when you did, you'd have been on the hook for that loan, and your house would be collateral. I couldn't breathe. Detective Ramirez pushed a glass of water across the table. There's more. The hard drives contained detailed financial records going back 3 years. He's been skimming from the joint account, taking cash advances on cards in your name, even selling items from your house. A lot of your grandmother's antiques are gone. The china cabinet, I whispered. He said his friend wanted to buy it. I told him no. He sold it anyway, for $3,000, which he used to pay for a weekend trip to Vegas with Melissa. How long have they been together? Based on text messages we recovered, about 4 months. But there were others before her. He's been cheating on you for at least 2 years. The water I'd just drunk threatened to come back up. We're charging him with identity theft, fraud, forgery. Combined with the assault charges, he's looking at serious prison time. But you need to move fast to protect yourself financially. Contact all 3 credit bureaus, file police reports, dispute the fraudulent accounts. I have a list of steps. She handed me a packet. There's a lawyer I recommend for situations like this. She specializes in financial fraud within marriages. I took the card with numb fingers. One last thing, Detective Ramirez said gently. Melissa Thornton wants to speak with you. She's still at the hospital. Why would I want to talk to her? Because she has information you need to hear. But it's your choice. I drove to the hospital, still processing everything. $47,000 in debt. My grandmother's antiques stolen. 2 years of affairs. Melissa was in a private room, her neck wrapped in bandages. Her wrist was in a cast. She looked younger than I'd thought, maybe 24 or 25. You came, she said, surprised. Detective Ramirez said you had information. She nodded slowly, wincing at the movement. I need to tell you something. About Brendan. I already know enough. No, you don't. She took a shaky breath. The baby isn't his. I blinked. But you said, I lied. The baby's my ex-boyfriend's. Brendan doesn't know that yet. I was going to tell him tonight, but when I mentioned the pregnancy at all, he lost it. Then why tell him you're pregnant in the first place? Because I'm an idiot who believed him when he said he loved me. Tears tracked down her face. He told me you were abusive, that you'd moved out months ago and he was filing for divorce. He said you'd cleaned out the bank accounts and left him with nothing, that he needed somewhere to stay while he figured things out. I never moved out. I know that now. When you walked in that night and he looked so panicked, I realized he'd been lying. But I was stupid. I thought maybe he'd just been scared to tell you about us. That maybe you really were as terrible as he said. And now? Now I know you were the victim all along, and I helped him hurt you. I'm so sorry. I studied her. Young, naive, genuinely remorseful. How did you meet? At the gym. He said he was separated. We started talking, then dating. He was so charming, said all the right things. I thought I'd found someone special. He's good at that. There's more, she said quietly. I went through his phone after he locked me in that room, before I climbed out the window. There are at least 6 other women he's been talking to. All of them think they're his only one. All of them have given him money. Money? Thousands of dollars. One woman sent him $15,000 for his mother's cancer treatment. His mother doesn't have cancer. I know. Another woman paid for his car repairs. Another for his brother's legal fees. All of it lies. The scope of his deception was staggering. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserve to know what you're dealing with. And because I need you to know I'm not trying to take anything from you. I don't want his child. I don't want his lies. I just want to go home and forget this nightmare happened. Where's home? Portland. I moved here for a job 6 months ago. I quit last week when Brendan said we were going to be a family. She laughed bitterly. I had my own apartment, my own life, and I gave it all up for a man who was using me. I recognize that pain. I did the same thing, just took me 7 years instead of 6 months. We sat in silence. The detective said you're pressing charges, Melissa said finally. Yes. Good. Do it. Burn his whole life down. I almost smiled. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Do you think we'll ever trust anyone again? I thought about that. Probably not for a while, but maybe that's not the worst thing. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and cold wind. The bail hearing was at 10 a.m. I debated whether to attend, but Detective Ramirez convinced me it would help. The judge needs to see you, she said. Needs to understand this wasn't just a one-time incident. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Brendan sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his public defender whispering urgently in his ear. He looked exhausted. Good. When he saw me, his expression transformed from defeated to enraged. He half stood before his lawyer yanked him back down. The prosecutor was a woman in her 50s named Catherine Walsh. She laid out the charges methodically. Assault, false imprisonment, stalking, harassment, identity theft, fraud, forgery. Your Honor, the defendant represents a clear danger to Ms. Chen and to the community at large. He has engaged in a pattern of deception, abuse, and financial fraud spanning multiple years. Since his arrest, he has made threatening statements about the victim to other inmates. We have documented evidence of ongoing manipulation and harassment. Brendan's lawyer argued for bail, said his client had no prior criminal record, was a productive member of society, had a job and community ties. My client admits the marriage was troubled, the lawyer said. But these charges are exaggerated and blown out of proportion by a vindictive ex-wife who's trying to take everything he has. I watched Judge Morrison's face. She was unimpressed. I've reviewed the evidence packet, the judge said, including text messages, financial records, and witness statements. This goes far beyond a troubled marriage. Mr. Patterson systematically defrauded his wife, brought unknown individuals into her home without permission, and violently assaulted a pregnant woman. Bail is denied. Brendan exploded, started screaming about how I'd ruined him, how I'd stolen everything, how I'd pay for this. Court officers had to physically restrain him while he was dragged from the courtroom. His mother was in the gallery. She glared at me with pure hatred. Outside, Catherine Walsh handed me her card. We'll need you to testify at trial. Can you handle that? Yes. His lawyer's going to come at you hard, make you out to be the bad guy. You need to be prepared. I'm prepared. She studied me. You know what? I believe you. The lawyer Detective Ramirez recommended was named Vivian Torres. Her office was downtown, tastefully decorated, with walls covered in certificates and commendations. I've handled 200 cases like yours, she said, reviewing my documents. This is extensive but not unusual. Men like your husband see their wives as resources to exploit. Can I fix this? Yes, but it'll take time. We'll file identity theft reports with all 3 credit bureaus, dispute every fraudulent account, and go after him for restitution as part of the criminal case. The good news is everything's well documented. The bad news is it'll take at least a year to fully clean up. What about the house? The forged deed isn't legally binding since it was never properly registered and you never consented. Your house is safe, but we need to make absolutely certain he can't come back and try this again. She walked me through the process, freezing my credit, filing police reports, contacting creditors, documenting every fraudulent transaction. One more thing, Vivian said. You need to sue him in civil court for damages, emotional distress, theft of property. The criminal case will put him in prison. The civil case will make sure he never profits from what he did. How much are we talking? Between the stolen property, the fraudulent debt, your legal fees, and punitive damages, I'd aim for $300,000. I whistled. He doesn't have that kind of money. No, but he'll have a criminal record and a judgment following him for the rest of his life. Every job will see it. Every background check. He'll never escape what he did. I signed the retainer agreement. Rachel threw me a divorce party that weekend. Just close friends, my sister's back patio, too much wine. To freedom, my best friend Nadia toasted. To never having unexpected house guests again, Rachel added. To changing the locks, I said, and everyone cheered. Nadia pulled me aside later. How are you really doing? I keep waiting to feel sad, I admitted. Or scared, or something. But mostly I just feel relieved. That's normal. You've been in survival mode for years. The grief will come later. What if it doesn't? She smiled. Then you're luckier than most. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You'll pay for what you did. I showed it to Rachel. She immediately called Detective Ramirez. He's not supposed to have phone access, the detective said, angry. Someone's smuggling it in. I'll handle it. The calls and texts from blocked numbers continued for a week. Always vague threats, always untraceable. Then they stopped abruptly. Detective Ramirez called. We found the phone. Another inmate was letting him use it in exchange for commissary money. That inmate's now in solitary, and your ex is banned from the phone system entirely. Thank you. There's something else. Melissa Thornton filed for a restraining order, and 3 of the other women he was scamming have come forward with their own complaints. This case is growing. Good. 3 months later, Brendan took a plea deal. 15 years, eligible for parole in 8. His lawyer had advised him that taking it to trial would mean twice that sentence given the overwhelming evidence. I attended the sentencing hearing, watched him shuffle into court in chains. He'd lost weight. His hair was graying at the temples. The judge allowed victim impact statements. Melissa went first, describing the fear she'd felt when he'd attacked her. One of the other women talked about the $20,000 she'd given him, thinking she was helping someone she loved. Then it was my turn. I stood at the podium and looked directly at Brendan. For 7 years, I thought I was the problem, I said. I thought if I could just be more accommodating, more understanding, more patient, things would get better. I blame myself for not being hospitable enough, for not welcoming strangers into my home with open arms, for wanting basic respect and privacy in my own house. Brendan wouldn't meet my eyes. But I wasn't the problem. You were. You saw me as an object to use. My home, my money, my trust, they were all just resources for you to exploit. You betrayed me in every way possible. And when I finally stood up for myself, you tried to destroy me completely. My voice didn't shake. I'd practiced this. I want you to know that you failed. I have my home. I have my freedom. I have a life that doesn't revolve around managing your chaos and cleaning up your messes. And I will never, ever let anyone treat me the way you did again. I sat down. The judge sentenced him to the full 15 years. Mr. Patterson, you exhibited a breathtaking level of manipulation and cruelty. You systematically abused your wife's trust, defrauded multiple women, and violently assaulted someone you claim to care about. You've shown no remorse and taken no responsibility. You are exactly the kind of predator this court exists to remove from society. Brendan tried to speak. The judge cut him off. You'll have 15 years to think about what you've done. Use them wisely. As they led him away, he looked at me one last time. The rage in his eyes was still there, but so was something else. The realization that he'd lost. Completely. I walked out of that courtroom and into bright sunshine. My phone rang immediately. Brendan's mother. You put my son in prison, she hissed. You destroyed his life over nothing. Your son assaulted a pregnant woman and stole $47,000 from me. He destroyed his own life. He was trying to provide for his family. You were never home, never supportive, because every time I came home, there were strangers in my house. Strangers your son invited without telling me. That's called being hospitable. But you were always too selfish to understand that. I almost laughed. You stayed at my house for 6 weeks without asking. You criticized everything I did. You told your son I was a bad wife because I wanted advance notice before hosting dinner parties. And you're calling me selfish? He's my son, and he's a criminal. If you'd raised him to respect boundaries and treat people with basic decency, maybe he wouldn't be in prison. I hung up, blocked her number. The civil suit took 8 months. Brendan tried to fight it from prison, filing motions written in crayon, because they wouldn't give him proper materials. His lawyer withdrew after Brendan started sending threatening letters. He represented himself at the hearing. Badly. Your Honor, he said, standing in his orange jumpsuit via video link. This is all a misunderstanding. My wife is vindictive and trying to ruin me. Judge Chen, no relation to me, just a coincidence, looked unimpressed. Mr. Patterson, you've been convicted of fraud, identity theft, and assault. The evidence is overwhelming. Do you have any actual defense to these claims? She's exaggerating everything. Really? Because I have bank records showing you stole $47,000. I have police reports about the assault. I have witness testimony from multiple women you defrauded. What exactly is exaggerated? Brendan floundered. The judge awarded me $340,000, more than Vivian had projected. This includes compensatory damages, punitive damages, and legal fees, Judge Chen explained. Mr. Patterson, you will be making payments on this judgment for the rest of your life. Every paycheck you earn, whether in prison or after release, will be garnished. Every asset you acquire will be subject to seizure. You will be paying for these crimes until the debt is satisfied or you die. Brendan's face crumpled. Court adjourned. Vivian high-fived me in the hallway. That went better than expected. Will I actually get any of the money? Eventually. Prison wages are minimal, but after he's released, every job will be garnished. It'll take decades, but you'll get something. More importantly, he'll never forget what he did. That felt like enough. I went home to my grandmother's house. The house that was fully mine now, with no one else's name on the deed. No forged documents, no unexpected guests. I walked through each room slowly. The living room with the couch Brendan had hated. The kitchen where I'd been expected to cook for strangers on demand. The guest room that had never been empty. I painted it. All of it. Every wall a different color. Bold, vibrant shades that Brendan would have hated. He'd always insisted on neutral tones for resale value. But I wasn't selling. This was my home. Rachel came over to help. We drank wine and painted until 2 a.m., music blasting, making plans. What do you want to do with the guest room? She asked. I'm thinking a library, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, reading nook, the kind of space that's absolutely not guest-friendly. Perfect. Or maybe an art studio. I always wanted to paint. Do both. You have a whole house. I did. I had a whole house. And a whole life. And no one to ask permission from. 6 months after the sentencing, I was reorganizing the basement when I found boxes I didn't recognize. Brendan's stuff apparently that I'd never known was there. Inside were photo albums. Not of us. Of other women. Hundreds of photos. Women I didn't recognize. Notes and handwriting I didn't know. Love letters addressed to Brendan from a dozen different people. I sat on the concrete floor and went through all of it. There was Courtney, who'd written him poetry. Jasmine, who'd sent him care packages when he claimed to be deployed overseas. He was never in the military. Rebecca, who'd apparently lent him $30,000 for a business venture that never existed. The documentation of his deception was stunning. I called Detective Ramirez. You need to see this. She arrived within an hour. Photographed everything. This is evidence of a pattern going back at least a decade. How did we miss this? It was hidden. Even I didn't know it was here. I'm reopening the investigation. There could be more victims. There were. 12 more women came forward over the next few months. All with similar stories. Brendan would meet them, charm them, create an elaborate lie about why he needed help, and drain them financially before disappearing. He's a serial con artist, Detective Ramirez said. You were the long game. He married you for sustained access to money and property. The others were short-term hits. How did I not see it? Because people like him are skilled at hiding who they really are. They find your vulnerabilities and exploit them. You wanted a partner. He gave you the illusion of one while bleeding you dry. The additional charges added another 5 years to his sentence. 20 years total. I was 34 when it all finally ended. The legal battles, the criminal proceedings, the constant looking over my shoulder. Brendan was in prison for 2 decades. His mother had stopped calling after I threatened a restraining order. His friends had scattered once they realized the free ride was over. I had my house, my peace, and my life back. Nadia convinced me to try therapy, just to process everything, she said. You've been through trauma. Dr. Patel was in her 60s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Tell me what brings you here. I summarized the whole story. She listened without interrupting. How do you feel about what happened? She asked when I finished. Relieved? Angry? Stupid for not seeing it sooner? Those are all normal reactions. What else? I thought about it. Free? I feel free. Good. Hold on to that feeling. Over the next year, I worked through the guilt of not recognizing the abuse, the shame of being manipulated, the anger at all the lost time. You spent 7 years in survival mode, Dr. Patel said. That's not wasted time. That's you doing what you needed to do to stay safe. Now you're learning to thrive instead of just survive. I started dating eventually, casually, carefully, with strict boundaries. The first time a man asked to come over, I said no automatically. I'm not ready for that yet, I explained. That's totally fine, he said. We can meet somewhere public. We did, and it was nice. No pressure, no expectations, just two people getting to know each other. It didn't work out with him, or the next guy, or the one after that, but I was learning what I wanted, what I wouldn't tolerate, what felt healthy versus what felt familiar. Familiar isn't always good, Dr. Patel reminded me. Sometimes familiar is just the dysfunction you've learned to accept. I joined a book club, started taking art classes, turned the guest room into a studio like I'd planned, painted terrible landscapes and abstract pieces that made me happy. Rachel visited one afternoon and found me covered in paint, music blaring, completely absorbed in a canvas. You look different, she said. Different how? Younger, lighter, like yourself again. I realized she was right. Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being the woman who tiptoed through her own house, bracing for the next invasion. I'd become someone new, someone stronger. Melissa reached out 2 years later. She'd moved back to Portland, had her baby, and was working as a paralegal. I wanted to thank you, she said over coffee, for pressing charges, for not letting him get away with it. You pressed charges too, because you showed me it was possible. Before that night, I thought I had to just accept what happened. But you fought back, and that gave me the courage to do the same. We kept in touch. Not close friends, but connected by shared trauma and mutual survival. I was 37 when I met Leo. He was a contractor doing work on Rachel's house, and she introduced us at a barbecue. Fair warning, Rachel told him. She has very firm boundaries about home visits. He laughed. Good. So do I. I like my space. We started slowly. Coffee dates, walks in the park, museum visits. He never pressured me for more. 3 months in, I invited him to dinner at my house. You sure? He asked. I think so. Is that okay? More than okay. I'm honored. He showed up exactly on time with flowers and wine, complimented my art, asked before sitting on each piece of furniture, as if he understood how hard it was for me to let anyone into my space. This is a beautiful home, he said. It is now. I told him the story. All of it, expecting him to run. Instead, he reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you for trusting me with that. You're not scared off? Why would I be scared? You survived something terrible and came out stronger. That's impressive. Not scary. We took our time. No rushing. No pressure. He had his own place and never suggested moving in together. Not even jokingly. I like having my own space, he said. And I like that you have yours. What if we want to spend more time together eventually? Then we'll figure it out together. With conversations and boundaries and respect. Novel concept. We got married 5 years later in Rachel's backyard. Small ceremony, close friends only. No surprises. No uninvited guests. Leo and I bought a second house together. His and mine arrangement. We'd spend some nights at each place, but we each maintained our own space. People think it's weird, he said. Let them. I was 43 when Brendan got out on parole. 8 years served, 7 off for good behavior and overcrowding. Detective Ramirez called to warn me. He's out. But there are conditions. No contact with you or any of his victims. If he violates it, he goes straight back. Where's he living? His mother's house, about 30 miles from you. I felt nothing. No fear, no anger, just mild interest in the information. You okay? The detective asked. Yeah, actually, I'm fine. He tried to call once. I blocked the number, tried to send an email. It went straight to spam. Showed up at Rachel's house looking for me. Leo answered the door. Can I help you? Leo asked pleasantly. I'm looking for my wife. You mean my wife? Because I don't know you. But you definitely don't know her. Brendan's face twisted. Tell her I need to talk to her. It's important. What's important is that you're violating your parole conditions right now. She has a restraining order. You're not allowed to contact her. I just want to explain. I'm calling the police in 30 seconds if you're still on this property. Brendan left. He was back in prison 2 months later for violating parole. Another 2 years added to his sentence. I heard about it from Detective Ramirez. He tried to contact 4 of his victims. Claimed he wanted to apologize and make amends. All of them reported him immediately. Good for them. He'll be 55 when he gets out this time. Hard to start over at that age with a record like his. I thought about the man I'd married at 27, the charming, charismatic person who'd swept me off my feet. That person had never existed. It had all been a mask. He made his choices, I said. Now he gets to live with them. I turned 50 last month. Leo threw me a surprise party, but only after carefully confirming I'd be okay with the surprise. He invited exactly the people I wanted, at exactly the time I wanted, in exactly the way I wanted. Happy birthday, he said, kissing my cheek. How does it feel to be 50? Honestly, amazing. I never thought I'd make it here. Make it to 50? Make it to happy. He squeezed my hand. You earned this. Every single bit of it. Rachel gave a toast. To my sister, who taught me that leaving is sometimes the strongest thing you can do, who showed me that boundaries aren't mean, they're necessary, and who proved that your worst chapter doesn't have to be your final one. Everyone raised their glasses. Later, when the party wound down and it was just me and Leo cleaning up, he asked, Any regrets? I thought about the 7 years with Brendan, the hotels, the escapes, the fear and anger and exhaustion. Then I thought about everything that came after, the freedom, the growth, the life I'd built. Not a single one, I said. Not anymore. My phone buzzed. Text from Melissa. Happy birthday. Hope you're celebrating with people who actually deserve you. I smiled and typed back, always. Because that was the real victory. Not the prison time or the money or the legal vindication. It was learning that I deserved to be treated well. That my home was mine to control. That I didn't owe anyone unlimited access to my life, my space, or my peace. It was understanding that no was a complete sentence. And it was knowing, bone deep, that I would never again let anyone make me feel like a stranger in my own home. 3 months ago, I got a letter forwarded through my lawyer, from Brendan. After all this time, I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper, his handwriting, shaky now. I know you won't read this, but I need to say it anyway. I was wrong. About everything. I used you. I hurt you. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too stupid and selfish to appreciate it. You deserved better. You deserved so much better. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't matter now, but I'm sorry. I read it twice. Then I burned it. Not out of anger. Just closure. Whatever redemption arc Brendan was looking for, he'd have to find it on his own. I wasn't part of his story anymore. He wasn't part of mine. I was done carrying his guilt. Done wondering what I could have done differently. Done with all of it. Leo found me watching the paper curl and blacken in the fireplace. Was that from him? He asked. Yeah. You okay? I'm perfect. And I meant it. Last week, I ran into Brendan's mother at the grocery store. Our first encounter in over a decade. She looked older, tired. Her cart was half empty. Just necessities. Nothing extra. She saw me and froze. I could have walked away. Probably should have. Instead, I stopped. Hello, I said simply. She stared at me like I was a ghost. You ruined my son's life. No greeting, no preamble, just accusation. No, I said quietly. He did that himself. He was trying to provide. He stole from me. He beat a pregnant woman. He defrauded a dozen other women. Those are facts, not opinions. She opened her mouth to argue, then seemed to deflate. Do you have any idea how hard this has been? Having to tell people my son is in prison? Having him call collect asking for money I don't have? I imagine it's been difficult. You don't care at all, do you? I considered the question honestly. No, not really. You raised a man who saw people as objects to use. When I tried to set boundaries, you called me a bad wife. When he went to prison for his crimes, you blamed me. So no, I don't particularly care how hard this has been for you. He's still my son. I know, but he stopped being my problem the day I changed the locks. I walked away. She didn't follow. In the car, Leo asked, how do you feel? Fine, really, truly fine. No guilt? No anger? Not anymore. She's living with the consequences of her choices, just like he is. That's not my responsibility. He kissed my temple. I'm proud of you. For what? For not carrying their burden anymore. That's the thing about recovery I've learned. It's not one big moment. It's 1,000 small ones. It's saying no without apologizing. It's protecting your space without guilt. It's walking away from toxic people without looking back. It's burning the apology letter because you don't need their validation to move forward. It's running into your abuser's mother and feeling nothing but mild inconvenience at the delay in your shopping. It's building a life so full and satisfying that the past becomes just that, past. I have my house with its bold paint colors and art studio. I have Leo with his respect for boundaries and genuine partnership. I have Rachel and Nadia and a circle of friends who understand that loving someone means respecting their limits. I have a garden now, vegetables and flowers, growing wild and beautiful. The yard Brendan always said needed to be landscaped professionally because guests might judge. The guests never mattered. The house was never for them. It was for me. My grandmother knew that when she left it to me. She'd been in a bad marriage herself, stayed for 40 years because that's what her generation did. But she made sure I'd have an escape route she never had. Don't make my mistakes, she told me before she died. Don't stay somewhere you're not valued. I wish I'd listened sooner, but I listened eventually. That has to count for something. The divorce was finalized 12 years ago this month. Leo suggested we celebrate. Celebrate what? I asked. Your Independence Day. So we did. Made a cake, invited friends over, had a party with streamers that said, congratulations on your freedom. It was ridiculous and perfect. Speech, Rachel called out. I stood up, slightly drunk on champagne and happiness. 12 years ago, I walked into my bedroom and found a stranger in my bed, and I thought that was rock bottom, but it wasn't. Rock bottom was all the times before that when I accepted being treated like I didn't matter in my own home. Rock bottom was believing that wanting basic respect made me a bad person. Everyone listened quietly. But rock bottom is also where you stop digging, where you finally say enough, where you take back your life, one decision at a time. So here's to rock bottom, and here's to the climb back up, and here's to never ever going back down. The room erupted in cheers. Later, when everyone had left and Leo and I were doing dishes together, he asked, do you think you'll ever tell your whole story publicly? Write a book or something? Maybe. If it helps someone else recognize what I didn't see for so long. What's that? That you're allowed to have boundaries. That your home should feel like yours. That being alone is better than being with someone who makes you feel like a stranger in your own life. He dried a plate thoughtfully. You know what strikes me about your story? What? You survived. Against everything he threw at you. The manipulation, the theft, the isolation, the violence. You survived. You more than survived. You thrived. I had help, sure. But you're the one who made the choice to leave, to fight back, to rebuild. That was all you. I thought about the woman I'd been at 27. Eager to please. Desperate to be loved, willing to shrink herself to avoid conflict. She wouldn't recognize me now. You know what the best part is? I said. What? I like myself now. I didn't used to. I thought if I could just be better, do more, try harder, I'd be worthy of love. But I was already worthy. I just needed to find people who saw that. I see it. I know you do. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this the woman who was married to Brendan Patterson? A young voice. Female. Nervous. My chest tightened. Who's asking? My name is Kennedy. I'm his daughter. The world tilted. His what? From before he married you. He didn't tell you about me, did he? No, he didn't. Yeah, that sounds like him. A bitter laugh. I found out he was in prison. Started researching what happened. Your name came up a lot. How old are you? 23. He was never really in my life. Paid child support sporadically. Visited maybe twice a year. Mom raised me basically alone. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not calling for sympathy. I'm calling because I need to know, was he always like this? Or did something change? I sat down heavily. Like what? Manipulative. Selfish. Unable to take responsibility for anything. Always, I said quietly, as far as I can tell. Silence on the other end. Then, thank you. That's what I needed to know. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why does it matter? Because I need to know if there's any of him in me, if I'm going to turn into that. My heart broke for her. Having a parent like that doesn't mean you'll become them. It means you get to choose differently. How do you know? Because I chose differently too. I spent 7 years with him. 7 years of absorbing his manipulation and cruelty. And I still chose to walk away. To build something better. You get the same choice. She was crying now. I've been so scared I'd end up like him. Then don't. Make different choices. Set boundaries. Treat people with respect. It's that simple and that hard. Thank you, she whispered. I know this is weird, calling you out of nowhere, but I needed to talk to someone who understood. You can call anytime you need to talk. Really? Really. I mean it. We exchanged numbers. She thanked me again and hung up. Leo had been listening from the doorway. You okay? He has a daughter, all those years, and he never mentioned her once. Sounds consistent with his character. She was scared she'd become him. What did you tell her? That she gets to choose who she becomes. Good answer. I thought about Kennedy, 23 years old, carrying the weight of her father's legacy, wondering if his poison lived in her blood. I knew that fear, not from genetics, but from experience. The worry that being with someone toxic for so long had contaminated me somehow, that I'd absorbed his patterns, his cruelty, his inability to love, but I hadn't, and she wouldn't either. The cycle breaks when you decide to break it. Kennedy texted me 2 days later, had coffee with my mom, told her about our call. She says thank you for talking to me, and she's sorry for what you went through. I typed back, tell her I'm sorry too. Single parenting is hard, especially when the other parent is useless. She laughed when I read her that. Says she wishes she'd met you years ago. Maybe in another universe we could have been allies. 2 women dealing with the same terrible man, supporting each other instead of being kept separate by his lies. But this universe worked out okay too. Leo and I are planning a trip to Italy next month. 2 weeks of art museums and wine and food. No schedule, no obligations, just us. What do you want to see most? He asked, flipping through the guidebook. Everything. Nothing. I don't care as long as I'm not hosting anyone's cousin in my house while we're gone. He laughed. Still bitter about the cousin? Little bit. Valid. That's the thing about trauma, it doesn't just disappear, but it does fade. The sharp edges become smooth, the panic becomes humor, the hypervigilance becomes healthy boundaries. I still check the locks twice before bed, still feel a spike of anxiety when Leo mentions someone might visit, still automatically calculate how quickly I could leave if I needed to, but those responses feel manageable now. Habits formed in survival that I'm slowly unlearning in safety. Dr. Patel says I'm doing remarkably well. Most people in your situation struggle with trust for decades. You've managed to build a healthy relationship relatively quickly. It doesn't always feel quick. I know, but you're doing the work. That's what matters. The work never really ends, I've learned. You just get better at it. I'm teaching an art class now at the community center. Beginners welcome. No experience necessary. Most of my students are older women, widowed or divorced, learning to paint because they never had time before. Their husbands didn't like the mess. Their kids needed the space. There was always someone else's priority ahead of their own. Better late than never, one woman said, attacking her canvas with fierce joy. Damn right, I agreed. We paint terrible landscapes and abstract blobs. We laugh when colors bleed together in unexpected ways. We celebrate small victories like getting the perspective right on a building or mixing the perfect shade of blue. You're good at this, another student told me. Teaching, I mean. I'm just sharing what helped me. Which is what? That it's never too late to start something new, to reclaim space that someone else took from you, to create something that's entirely yours. She smiled. That's more than painting. I know. The class ends, and I drive home to my house with its bright walls and art studio and garden. Leo's car is in his driveway next door. We'll have dinner together later, maybe at his place, maybe at mine. The choice is ours to make, together but separate, connected but independent. It's not the life I planned at 27 when I got married. It's better, because it's mine, and nobody else gets to decide how I live it. The end.